The one who could carry a conversation at dinner, strike up chatter with strangers, and fill silence effortlessly. My husband Daniel was none of those things. He was quiet, reflective, speaking only when his words carried weight. Some found it intriguing, most found it uncomfortable. When we married, my family couldn't resist the jokes. "Does he even talk?" my brother teased during his toast. I laughed along, masking the sharp pang in my chest. Daniel only offered that small, knowing smile of his, no defense, no explanation. He simply raised his glass and murmured, "It's the quiet moments that reveal the truth." Everyone found it charming. I, however, only wondered, patience? What does that even mean? Years passed, and the teasing never stopped. At parties, friends would prod, "Maya, does Daniel even exist? Or, did you marry a ghost?" When he spoke slowly and deliberately, someone would smirk, "Oh, look, he talks." I laughed every time, not from amusement, but to hide my unease, not wanting to seem too protective of my quiet husband. Gradually, I noticed a shift. Daniel continued attending social events, but withdrew from conversation. He listened politely, calm and distant. Sometimes, he would rest his hand lightly on my shoulder beneath the table, silently grounding me. Meanwhile, I remained busy entertaining everyone, failing to notice him fading into the background of our shared life. One evening at a small work gathering, the joke sharpened. A half-drunk voice said, "Daniel's the kind of man you forget even exists in the room. No wonder Maya does all the talking. She's married to a shadow." Laughter erupted. I froze mid-sip of wine and did nothing. A brittle, fearful smile remained plastered on my face. Daniel said nothing. His gaze met mine, calm and unruffled. Somehow, that silence spoke louder than the laughter. The next morning, he made breakfast, eggs, toast, coffee, but the way he placed my plate on the table felt deliberate. "You're quiet today?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Maya, you didn't notice, but I've been quiet for years." That line lingered with me. For the first time, I truly observed him. The way he waited for others to finish, how every word was purposeful, and how few really listened, even me. Weeks later, my parents invited us to dinner. My father, who adored Daniel but never fully understood him, reminisced about our wedding. "Remember when everyone thought he was mute? You could have married a mannequin and gotten more conversation." The same sharp laughter filled the room. Then Daniel looked up, calm and steady. "It's strange, isn't it?" he said, setting his fork down. "The loudest people often have the least to say, and the quiet ones spend their lives sorting through the noise." The room went silent. My mother froze mid-bite, my brother's smirk vanished, and even I could only sit in stunned stillness. Daniel's tone wasn't angry, it wasn't defensive, but its quiet authority cut deeper than any shouting could. "I've never minded the jokes," he continued. "What I do mind is that silence is mistaken for emptiness. It isn't. It's observation. And sometimes observation tells us more than words ever could." Then he smiled softly and continued eating as if nothing had happened. The rest of the meal was quiet, too quiet. My father cleared his throat, searching for another topic, but the atmosphere had changed. Every word now felt weighted. At home later, I didn't know what to say. I wanted to apologize, but for what? For laughing along? For not stopping them? For only realizing now how much he had endured? He washed dishes silently while I watched. "You embarrassed them," I whispered. He looked at me, drying his hands. "No," he said quietly. "They embarrassed themselves. I just stopped helping them hide it." That night, lying beside him, I reflected on all the times I laughed at his expense, mistaking his stillness for weakness. I had wished he was like me, loud, expressive, social, thinking confidence was measured by noise. But Daniel's calm wasn't shyness. It was strength disguised as silence. At work the next week, I noticed pauses before speaking, how often people rushed to fill silence with meaningless chatter, how laughter masked discomfort rather than joy. And finally, I understood Daniel. A few nights later, friends came over, the same ones who once made him the punchline. Midway through, someone nudged him. "Come on, Daniel, Say something before we forget your voice. This time I spoke first, measured and careful. He speaks only when it matters. You might not like what you hear. The laughter died. Daniel's eyes met mine, and for the first time, he looked proud, not because I defended him, but because I finally understood. After everyone left, I asked, "Did it ever bother you?" "The jokes," he paused. "It used to. Until I realized that when people mock what they don't understand, it's never about you. It's their discomfort projected onto you." He reached for my hand, warmth in his eyes. "You used to be uneasy with silence, too." I smiled faintly. "Not anymore." "Then you finally started listening," he said. It wasn't dramatic or romantic, just honest, and somehow that honesty filled the quiet more than laughter ever could. Over time, I changed. I no longer rushed to fill every pause. I didn't feel the need to prove myself. I learned that sometimes the strongest act is saying nothing, letting silence reveal who is comfortable with themselves and who fears being unseen. People still talk too loudly. They still make unkind jokes. But now I smile, not from anger or superiority, but because I finally understand what Daniel meant that night when he said, "It's the quiet moments that tell the truth." And he was right. They do. That single, calm sentence didn't just silence a room. It transformed the way I listen, love, and measure true strength.